you. But if you are with Mr. Praise for Wowe, it probably would be a good afternoon to you. So rather than say a good evening, I would say good day to everyone, so that I know where you're joining me from and to know what I'm to greet you, a good morning or a good afternoon or a good evening. Can you go into the chat room and tell me where you're joining from? I can already see your name. All you need to do is let me know where you're joining me from, so that I can know if it's a good morning for you, if it's a good evening, or if it's a good afternoon. But I am super excited. Now, if you're on this call and your family and friends are not here, you are wrong. You are wrong. Don't forget that we'd always talk about the fact that community parenting is what we have to go back to. Based on all the things that is happening around the world right now with our children, community parenting is what we have to go back to. So if you have your colleagues, your family, your cousin who are not here, admin, please drop the link. Let them send to their friends, send to all your friends so that they can join in. I'm going to be waiting. This Zoom can take a 500 and we're just 215. We're moving very fast. I would have to wait till we are at 500. So if you want us to move quickly, if you want to have Mr. Presowe address all your parenting questions and also give us what he has for us today, then you want to share the same link you used to join this meeting, you want to send to all your friends. So please quickly go into the chat room. You would see the YouTube link there. You can also share the Zoom link that you used to join us. Whichever one you want to share, it's okay. But please, everyone on this call, at least send to 10 people each. 10, that's too small. Are you saying that 10 is all that you know? Are you saying that 10 are just the most important people to you? No, send to at least 50 people. Maybe I have a gift for you, you know, who knows? You might just win something tonight. So what I need you to do is go share on your church groups, your old association groups, whatever groups you belong to, nursing mother group, nursing father groups, whatever group you belong to, go in there and share the link. Let all your friends join in because we need to be able to do this together. So I'm going to go into the chat room now and see where people are joining me from while I wait for you all to ensure that you are sharing the link. Someone said, Biko, this group is sweet too. All right. I apologize to you, Sylvanus, that you didn't understand the language. I apologize. But you could have just grooved to the song, you know. All right. Good evening, Abibo. Good evening, Efe. Hi, Anolua. Temi Tokwe, I could see you. Okaro, I could see you. Good evening. Olua Kemi says she's joining me from Port Harcourt. Thank you so much for joining. So it will be a good evening to you. Temi is also joining from Nigeria. Olukunle, it's a good evening. So I want to believe you're joining me from Africa. Okaro is also joining me from Lagos. Anybody outside of Nigeria? Maybe a good afternoon. Okay, I can see Nigeria, Lagos, Kaduna. Thank you, Debbie, for joining from Kaduna. Debbie, can you please share this link to everyone in Kaduna? I want to believe that you're raising your children there. It's important that these people also, your community of people you stay with, parents in your children's school, people where you worship in the same religious house together, it would be important that they know what you're learning. So please go and share the link. Anida Venture from Benin City, please join. Go and share the link to all your people in Benin. I can only see Lagos, Abuja. Okay. Someone is joining from Mali. Oh my God. Anuolua, a big shout out to you. Mali, beautiful. Please share this link with all your people in Mali so that they know what you're enjoying this beautiful day. If you're outside of Nigeria, you can share your link, whether you're in Lagos, you're in Abuja, you're in Calabar, you are in Ijebu Day, you're in Grace. Okay, I have Dallas, Blessing joining from Dallas. So it's a good afternoon to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's do better. Share with your people. Don't come and enjoy this alone. Mommy and daddy, don't enjoy this alone. My Warrior and Delta people, share with your people. Share this link. Yes, from Joss, Oweri, Innocent, I can see you. Ifeoma, I can also see you. Please share this link. Let's share this link. Share this. I don't want you guys to enjoy this alone. It's a beautiful evening and you'll be excited about what we're doing today. It's a whole learning on its own. And I love the topic that Mr. will be talking about. It says, your child, sexual abuse, and heterosexuality. You know, I've been receiving lots of calls from parents who say, oh, I'm worried. I want to be sure. Is my child now gay? Oh, my child has a friend in school, you know, who is practicing same sex. Is my child safe? At what age should I have the sex conversation with my child? And, you know, it's also holiday period. Some statistics have stated that during the holiday is when most children are more abused. Yes, the last time I was in your state, I overheard some conversations saying that the government is trying to work on safeguarding their children this holiday because they realize that there's been an increase in child sexual abuse. So it is important that you also safeguard your children. It's very important. And that's why this topic today, I find it very exciting. It is better for us to raise awesome children than to be repairing damaged adults. So please share, share, share. I can see that the number is increasing. Dorothy, thank you for joining from Ado Ekiti. Yes, you can see that my admin has dropped the YouTube link. They have also dropped the Zoom link, I believe. So please, you just begin to share on your group. And if you have shared to at least 50 people, come to this group and tell me, to the chat room and tell me, Dawn, I want to see who would win my gift today. And if you're telling me done, it means that you will show me proof that you actually sent to over 50 people. Bolanle, thank you for joining from South Africa. Port Harcourt people, I can see you. Please share the link, share the link. Scholastica from Lagos, good evening. So that's a good evening to you. Bosse also from Lagos. Okay, I can see another person, Uche from Atlanta, USA. I can see Oluwatoyin from UK. I can see Zaka from Yola, Adamawa State. Thank you so, so, so much. The future of our world is in how well we're able to raise the children in our hands. The future of our world is dependent on how well we're able to raise our children. And that's what I'm super excited about this. And you can see that Mr. Praise for Wowe is in the house. I can see another person from Cameroon. I'm excited to see you. Please share this link. Let's get it going. Let's move this number up. Many parents need to hear this. And let me tell you one of the reasons why it's very important that you share this. Your child, there's this saying that Mr. Praise always says, and I agree with him. He says that no child is safe until every child is safe. So if you think, oh, me, I know Mr. Praise so well. I'm always going for all these classes. I'm using what he teaches, you know, to raise my children. And you're not sharing with the people, the students, the parents of the students in your child's school, the children that your kids would mingle with, maybe in your estate, the church where you attend, or the religious houses where you attend. You're not sharing with them. And then you're thinking that you're doing so well. No, you're wrong, because no child is safe until every child is safe. Now, I hope I have given you one reason, very important reason, why you need to go share this link with your people. The number needs to go up. We need people to join in and learn today so that together we can raise children who can transform our world. I can't wait to see everyone join us in today. Mr. Praise for Wowa, it's good to have you in the house. Good evening. But before I hand over to Mr. Praise, I have amazing, amazing stuff for you today. And trust me, something that would excite you. It would blow your mind. What I need you to do right now, get your writing material, your jotter and your pen, and ensure that you have maybe a bottle of water or a cup of tea beside you. so that you can have a jolly ride, so that you can have a beautiful time in this class today. But before we go ahead, please, please, please go on your social media platform, share the flyers with your people, go tell your people to say, oh, there's something exciting going on. There's something exciting going on here tonight, and I don't want you to miss it. So let's get it up. Let's get it up. We'll get started when we're at least 400 on this call. We'll get started when we're 400. So if you're still waiting and you have not shared with your people, oh no, you're wrong. So please do so immediately. Do so immediately. You see what? The LGBTQ movement are very intentional about what they do. And that's why we are also very intentional. We're going to safeguard the sanity of our children. We're going to ensure that nobody recruits them into what is not in alignment with what our family values and vision is. So please call your people. Let's get started. Let's get started. Before I call up Mr. Praise for Wowe, let's get started. Let's get started. Tonight, you're going to be getting a deeper understanding of the different, sexual orientation, the gender identity. It's just power-packed. So you don't want to miss this. You don't want to be distracted. So, mommy, if you're in the kitchen and you're trying to make maybe a mala or a bar or semo or rice, please, you want to quickly hand that over to somebody and ensure that you don't miss any parts of this class. I think at this point, I am going to invite Mr. Praise Owe, for the people who have joined in early so that we don't waste their time, because as an organization, we keep to time. So Mr. Praise for Wowe, good afternoon to you. And how are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, I'm fine. Good afternoon, Talani. Yeah, okay.
We're super excited to have you on the call. So if you have not done what I asked you to do, please do that right away while I hand over to Mr. Praise for Wowe. Over to you, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining us from. You know that this meeting is a meeting we do from time to time. We try to do this every quarter. I think this should be my second, I think it's every bi-monthly or something. This should be the third one for the year. And I'm super excited to be with you. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are good. Okay, I just had a rush from another meeting to come and facilitate this. And I believe that we're going to have a great time together. Right. I think technically we had like 4,000 people registered for this particular event, from different parts of the world. So, but we can't just wait. We have to go ahead because I want to touch on a number of things. And then from there, I can take a number of questions, before we shut down for today. So technically, the meeting maximum time of 2 hours thereabout, I think we should be done. All right. If I can do it in less time, I will do it. Right. So I'm just going to go ahead. But before I go ahead, let me ask you a simple question. At what point, at what age in your life did you get taught about sexuality education? At what age? If you were taught about sexual education, maybe at age 5, just put 5 on the chat box. If you were taught at age 10, maybe you put 10. If you were like me, and the person that taught you was Thou That the Sexy Guy, Naxin, that magazine by Wale Adenuga Production many years ago, Lolly. Okay. Okay, so I can see not at all. I was never taught. I can see age 10, 16, 17, 6. I was never taught. Okay. If you discover it yourself, you can write self-taught. Not at all, not at all, not at all, not you. I taught myself. Kenny, what did you teach yourself? Stumbled into it. Self-taught. Never taught. Okay. Okay, I was never taught. Economics class. How did sex enter out in economics class? Okay, self-taught. Okay, thank you, everyone. You guys are a huge vibe. I'm enjoying you already, right? For those of you from Cameroon, from Mali, our African brothers, I am so excited to have you. I was never taught counseling class, sex education class in SS1. Oh, People have gotten pregnant already in SS1. Some people are even getting ready to be grandmother. We read Dauda. Okay, I can see my people. Those of us that were taught by Dauda. Okay, we are present. All right, we were taught by that magazine called Lolly in Nigeria many years ago. Dauda, the sexy guy. Some of you learned it from Playboy. Some of you was porn. You have to peep. Some of you learned from auntie and brother. I don't know. Almost every family seems to have that auntie and brother, that will be doing stuff and you'll be peeping. All right. Ints, yes, Ints and Arts. Those were the magazines that taught quite better. There was another one, Better Lover, that came later. Okay, I'm excited. KB Super, KB Astronomicology. Okay, I think we have quite a number of old people here. You guys are old. Okay, the younger generation are looking at you and wondering, okay, my mom was carrying instruction from my mom. I know that instruction. Oh, Tolani, now you start to menstruate. If anybody touch you, you'll get pregnant. That was all. That's their sexuality education. Okay. Mills and Boone. Mills and Boone. I read Shege. So that's magazine. Okay. Thank you very much for all that you guys have done. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you so much for inviting your friends and families to this meeting. This is a critical meeting and we need to have this conversation once and for all. Now, my name is Praise Fowowe, and this is, I left paid employment to come and do this in the year 2003, right? And I want to say thank you very much for having me, for taking time out on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening to listen to me. I know that some of you are in some other programs, and I really, really appreciate all my aburos who are doing stuff in this sector and doing stuff in this area. It's incredible work that we're trying to do. I remember when I started out many years ago in Africa, very few people were in that space. And I remember that I had to put out a sexuality education, comprehensive kit, got into a lot of research, and a lot of people looked at me as if I was crazy. Why would you be teaching children about sexuality education? But here we are, right? So the first thing I'm going to say in this meeting, full disclosure, this is an African village meeting, right? And so because I live in the US and I work in the US and I work with all kinds of people with various sexual orientation, I have to put this out. This is a meeting of African traditional value systems and what is acceptable in Africa from our past and as of today. Hence, my frame of reference is going to be a heterosexuality education, right? I needed to put that out there because I've been in meetings like this where it was not fully disclosed and someone came to say, you know what, to our group. No, this is an African meeting. And as I said, the last time I checked across Africa, I'm not aware of any African government that has passed any law contrary to the traditional African beliefs about sexual orientation and sexuality, right? So this is, for lack of a better word, for lack of a better definition, this is a meeting where boy is boy and girl is girl, right? And it doesn't mean that we denigrate any other group, right? Because I work with all kinds of people. As long as you're a human being, I'm going to work with you. However, for this particular meeting, is an African village meeting, and we have to abide by African traditional values and the rules and regulation that governs every African country as it stands today. Okay, if you fully understand what I've just said, can you type yes? Can you type yes? Okay, someone is saying, will be okay to have a family with children less than 10 years old to be on this Zoom. Please, if you have a child who is, parents, in fact, this meeting is more for parents who have a child that is less than 10. So if you have a child from 0 to 18, all of them needs to be here. Okay, you guys understand me? So we are together. Well done, Mabel. I can see you, South Cameroon. So this, I needed to put this out here so that nobody feels offended. Okay, now that we have said this, now the first thing I want to do is to go down the memory lane. Between 2003 and 2013, my job full-time was to warn Africa and to go from places to places sharing sexuality education. And why was I doing that? Now, the first part of this meeting, I'm going to show you what I used to teach Africans in 2003, right? And I'm going to show you the slide I used to use, the PowerPoints I will use. Don't laugh at me. If you guys laugh at me, I'm going to exit you from this meeting if you laugh at me, right? But it's to appreciate how truth is constant and how far we have gone and why we haven't done a whole lot as a people. I remember going for a meeting. I was invited by Pastor Mrs. Folu Adeboye to Redemption Camp. This should be like 9-10 years ago. And it was a female ministers conference. And I spoke from my heart about the reality of what was happening and how many of them, of the church, has not fully responded or woken up from what I classified as a slumber. There was absolute silence at that meeting, right? I mean, if you dropped a pin, you could, or people were crying at that meeting because I was showing them data, field data. Now, I don't go online to go and source for data. I'm always on the field. I went around 13 states in Nigeria as a then, and I was showing them data of what was happening. The young people I was talking to, my experience in the field, and people were just wailing, right? But I didn't just talk of bring fear. I had to show them the roadmap and what they needed to do. Now, about, I think 8 years after, Mommy Gio invited me again, right? This time around to another meeting. So I was saying to her that what I said 8 years ago, people got excited about it. You know, they loved events and they invited, oh, praise, come and do this. After a while, I shut and stopped going, right? But to build the framework that can stand the future and solve problem, it's almost like it's something we hate to do as a people. Right. Okay, I can see my people. Stamodupe is here. Those were the people. I mean, we got into the studio and wrote songs that young people can use to teach their children sexual education. Many of those children that were taught, some of them are graduating from school now. I see some of them see me and they talk to me and they say, praise, thank you very much. Right. So when parents talk about, oh, my child, you know, I'm afraid of LGBT, I'm afraid of this. And I said, you see, light is never afraid, right? If you have done the right thing, you don't have to worry. So down the memory lane, 2003 to 2013, I remember this slide. And I used to teach, you know, the Bible says that, children are the heritage of the Lord, the fruit of the womb, the reward. It says like arrow in the hand of a warrior, right? Now, and I used to say to them that there is nothing as dangerous as undirected arrow because it would come back to eat you. What does that mean? A child is an arrow in your hand. Now, the purpose of an arrow is not just to shoot. If you think the purpose of an arrow is to shoot, you are totally wrong. You have half information. The purpose of an arrow is to shoot the arrow in the direction of a predetermined target. If you do not target your arrow to hit a particular target, you can kill someone, or you can kill yourself, or the arrow can kill itself, or the arrow can totally mess up other people. Thank you for those of people who are saying they have my kids. Thank you, guys. I'm grateful that I have my whole people here, right? We've come a long way, and I'm glad that I was able to help your children. Now, so I used to say that every parent had a child in their hand. Every child is a potential arrow. That child was in your hand before the child could develop a mind of his own to begin to doubt and question and challenge you. What did we do? Are you aware that when a child is born, if a child is born and you put that child in your hand and you say to that child that you are a monkey, you are a monkey, you are a monkey, you are a monkey, you are a monkey for 7 years, right? And bring monkeys around the child. And what the child watched the monkey jump and up from one place to the other. Are you aware that that child after age 7 is going to be up, jumping and upping around like monkeys? Are you aware? Right. That's to say that we are a product of conditioning. Now, whether you condition intentionally or you condition unintentionally, the consequence will be glaring to all. So sometimes when parents say to me, oh, praise, my child is a child of God. I don't know what happened. How did this child become like this? I smile because I know that while men slept, something had happened. Right. So I used to show this picture in 2003, 2004, 2005. And I always ask people if they could recognize any of these people. Usually they struggle to recognize them. But I always say to them, that, the lady, the one on the piano was Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga used to be a little child in the church and she used to play piano, right? The young man you're looking at used to be R. Kelly. R. Kelly is in prison right now. Of course, you know the story. The other girl, you know, who was waiting to perform in church is the one you call Madonna now. The other girl is late, and that was Whitney Houston as a child when she was performing in church. This other guy was in Creflo Dollar's church, and that guy is Usher, right? The other one whose passport you can see is the one you know as D'banj. Now, all these 4, 5, or 6 icons, right? They're global icons right now. They used to be in the religious system, which means their parents prayed with them. They took them to church. They were in Sunday school. They were performing in church, you know, but they were arrows. But what happened was that we never shot them in a predetermined target. So their talent came out and someone else found their talent to use because there is no vacuum in life, and they were shot. But what happened was that, so see who they become. I mean, this was 2003, 2004. You could see their net worth as at that year, right? You can see what these guys were commanding as at then. I don't know what it is right now, you know. So these guys were shot anyhow. And now the values-driven people started complaining that they are messing up the sanity of our children. They are singing rubbish. They are teaching our children to go have sex, right? And I was saying then that while everyone was talking about a sexualized world, I was talking about that our world was moving from a sexualized world into an almost sexualized world, right? I mean, okay, somebody says, I still have my Project Chase slide, strictly for boys and girls. Thank you very much. Our undirected arrows are the ones speaking for the enemy against us at the gate, creating a sexualized world. That was then. Of course, you know, the dynamics have changed. A lot has gone wrong. There are nations on the planet today that we can't even speak against certain things, or we can't even say, we don't even necessarily have to speak against it, where what you don't want to hear are imposed on you by another group. Right. And you see, it's a free world. Everyone is free to push their agenda. The challenge is, especially in Africa, the heterosexuals who raise heterosexual parents are not pushing the agenda. So we have become at the receiving end of whatever is thrown at us. And in most cases, we now feel powerless. Now, Sheikh was saying, can I join with my son? I'll need to know how old your son is, right? Before I can say whether you can join or not. Now, so in that year and time, right? 17 can join. 17 is almost an adult, right? In those year, age, and time, we used to talk about the things we noticed that was happening among young people, and this was in Africa. Right? We used to talk about sexting. Of course, you know, sexting is now old school. Things have gone beyond sexting right now. We used to talk about rape. The challenge way back is that it's not even who was raped. The challenge is who was never raped. Okay, right? That was the challenge, right? Who was never raped? Because almost every lady who lost their virginity in Africa, you know, it was a first experience, whether they now later accepted it or not, right? And so there was subtle rape, there was forceful rape, but rape is rape. Now, we talked about pornography. I did a study of the pornography industry in Nigeria from the time as of 2003. There was no Nigerian on pornography, on any porn video that you can Google, get online, and see their face. Not one. Not a single person, right? As of 2005, there was a Nigerian that emerged. Her name was Afro Candy. 12 and 16 can join. Now, Afro Candy was the lady who got into porn, but you couldn't search for a video online. You will not find it. If you go to porn site, you will not find her, right? So Afro Candy moved and began to talk about, you know, lewd, whatever. But Nigerians, by the year 2008, Nigerians started shooting their porn. Of course, what America can do, Nigeria can do better. Now, so Nigerians created something called Afrinolly. Afrinolly was the first point of call when Nigerians started shooting porn, right? And 11, I don't think so. This meeting is for you parents, so focus on this. There's something else for your children, right? So Afrinolly started, and they were shooting in a place called Asaba. They were paying those girls, because I tracked all these things. They were paying those girls 20,000 naira to have every round of porn, right? And so it was, if I used to be on YouTube, YouTube later took it out, right? Now, but they were covering their faces. You couldn't see any face of any Nigerian or any African. As at then 14 can join, right? But after a while, in 2010, they now began to mask a little bit. And so you could literally, if you peep really, you could see. But by 2012, it became a free-for-all. Nigeria's porn industry began to compete with other parts of the world. In fact, it was getting closer. The rate of porn as of 2012 became like every other hour, a new porn is shot and uploaded in Nigeria. I began to troubleshoot and began to realize that there were politicians and there were musicians who were investing heavily in the porn industry in Nigeria, right? And there were people who were making a lot of money. And every time they upload porn, views in the next 48 hours will be like 400,000 views. And the largest consumers of porn were ages, then in Nigeria was ages 12 to 19, there, ages 12 to 22, thereabout. Now, so porn industry is now a major industry in Africa as at the moment. Ghana followed Nigeria, Kenya followed Ghana, Cameroon followed Kenya, and on and on and on. So almost every African country have their own version of porn, maybe except the northern African countries, which is not totally pronounced, but they still exist, right? Now, from porn came incest. As at then, this was 2003 to 2012. We started getting cases of siblings who were having stuff with themselves. If I remember, a mother had said to me that praise, sorry, let me say at this juncture, please, if your child is less than 14, maybe you can excuse them, right? Because I just remember that there are some sensitive matters, cases outside that happened way back, right, that they may not be ready for, right? So incest became a mainstay. I remember a woman was saying to me that, oh, Prince, when you started talking about teach your child about sexual education early, I thought you were talking rubbish, until we found out that my two children were doing stuff. And you see, it took us about 10, 15 sessions to get those children back to order. And it was very, very tough. In fact, there was no guarantee. I always tell people it's better to prevent than to be trying to repair. Okay, then from voyeurism, we started noticing that there were gay bars and the gay church. There was a gay church in Nigeria then, right? It was by a certain man, Jide Macaulay. They were setting up their bars and churches, and they ran like cell system in Nigeria that year, right? And you couldn't know where they were going to meet the next week, except you were in their community. Now, I was able to know because I had people I was working with who were within the community, and all, right? Then lesbianism at their headquarters somewhere in Ota that year, Ota in Lagos, Nigeria, Ogun State, Nigeria, it was an entire duplex. Then bestiality. You started having Africans who were, getting young people to have sex with their dogs and animals and whatever. Then there was a condom for 5-year-olds way back. I don't know what happened to that, but it used to exist. And there were elementary schools in some countries of the world that year that when your child gets into school, they say, oh, everybody should know about sexuality. So in the name of everyone knowing about sexuality, they started handing condom over to 5-year-olds. These were things happening way back. Now, after that, strip joints and parties became a mainstay. You could see strip joints and parties everywhere. So they were masquerading as joints in Lagos, Nigeria, and it moved to other parts of the country. In fact, if you go to Enugu, there was a time, I think a governor had to shut down the construction of hotels because there were more hotels than schools. And those hotels were short-time hotels where people just went to do stuff, right? And so you see bars open up in a place like Ajegunle, and in fact, Ajegunle had an entire street called Good Evening Street where prostitution took place, depending on the part of Nigeria that you wanted to patronize, right? I used to go in there to take girls out and return them home, right? And then oral sex became a major thing. And oral sex became a coded issue in secondary schools wherein students were doing oral sex and they would put someone on the veranda to check the teachers if they were coming. And they would say, you must not snitch on each other. But some of them were talking to me and because they were afraid, right? But sometimes they will code it. And so I was somewhere and the boy said to a girl in the house I was visiting, and they said, the boy said to the girl, give and it shall be given unto you. And the girl responded, good measure, press down, shaking together, running over. And the parents were nodding there, thinking they were quoting scriptures. But I knew, because I walked in their midst, to know that that wasn't the scriptural reference, because if it was a scriptural reference, why did someone need to start? Why did the other person need to finish it? I knew that something was going on. I couldn't figure out what it was, but I knew something was wrong. Now, so I excused the two of them, and I just use an elderly sense to say, I knew what you guys were talking. I knew you guys were not talking scriptures. And immediately they started begging me. They said, please, I must not let their parents know. I said, so what's going on there? Instinctively, I just realized, give and it shall be given unto you. Okay, give a head, give a head. I knew that it was an oral sex transaction, right? The girl responding, good measure, press down, shaking together, is saying that I want happy ending. Are you ready for it? So these were realities. Child sexual abuse, it was said that 1 in every 4 girls will be sexually abused, before the age of 18. Right, and that 1 out of every 6 boys, right? And so abortion became a mainstay, wherein teenagers were going for abortion. There were hospitals absolutely dedicated to abortion in Africa way back. Right. So this is where we're coming from. Pedophilia became another issue. So there was a conference at Baltimore within that same year, wherein the pedophiles and pedosexuals began to create their movement. And pedosexuals were saying that if they could accept the LGBT, why not us? And what they're saying is, right, we also can't help ourselves. We don't have feelings for we have feeling for for children. We don't have feeling for same-sex or heterosexuality, and they were pushing this agenda, and I was monitoring. Then after pedosexuals, ecosexuals came up. Ecosexuals, about 4 million in the world. I don't know if they have increased. Ecosexuals are people who are saying, you know what, we don't have feelings towards human beings. We have feelings towards animals. We are in love with nature. So if you see the ecosexuals walk on land, they walk on land. It's almost like you're asking yourself, what's going on here? Ecosexuals, they say they make love with plants and whatever. It was just a mad issue, that we were witnessing, unfolding in our midst. Then Fokarama eats our boarding houses. Fokarama is what they used to call in the Greek Empire pederasty. Fokarama was what replaced what you call school father, school son, right? School father, school son. And this is not to scare you. I'm going somewhere. Just follow me. I'm just building a foundation to help you understand how we got here, right? And Fokarama is when your child gets into school, but your child has a school father. When you were in school, school father, school son, the school father will protect the school son, right? At no cost, maybe at worst, he will take provisions from the child and what have you. Okay, nobody can join anymore. We are 500. So if you want to invite anybody, you have to use the YouTube link. So share the YouTube link admin so that people can share with their people, right? Just continue to share the YouTube link, right? So, but now school father, school son, school mother, school daughter has been replaced with Fokarama, where when new students got into those, what's it called? Secondary schools, the boarding houses, they did an initiation ceremony for them where a senior picks a junior student, and part of the benefits of being mentored is that it's going to sodomize the boy, right? There were so many schools doing this, keeping quiet, including faith-based schools, right? And I'm not sure there is any major school I interacted with that there were no shades of Karama in there. Usually they'll catch one person and they'll suspend the person. And I say that whenever you see a vice in a school and you suspend one person, if you investigate deeper, you will find out that there is a network of people doing the same vice within the same system. Now, the question is, this was 2003 to 2013. Question, what is the state of things right now? Are we better off? Are things better off, or things have gone worse? What do you think? If you have to answer that question, do you think things are better off or things have gone worse? Let me see you talk in the chat box. Based on what you are hearing and based on what you're seeing in the society, do you think things have become worse? Okay, it's gone worse. It's gone worse. It's gone worse. Okay, so we all agree on that line. Now, so the cases we used to handle way back is totally different from the cases we are handling right now. So when we talk about child sexual abuse prevention, parents will say to me, my child is too young. They will ask me, at what age should you teach a child about sex? And I would say, once a child can talk, you should teach a child about sexual education. They say, yeah. No, praise. And I said that the strength of the predator against your child is the ignorance of your child. The predator knows that your child does not know anything, right? So the predator is going to get in before you and mess up a child before you even wake up. So those days, parents would say to me, my child is too young. But they're saying my child is too young. I remember a case in 2012 in Port Harcourt of a 6-year-old who died of complication arising from sexually transmitted infection. She contracted from the house, from the house girl. Very pathetic story. But the child died eventually. And this happened in Port Harcourt. These are real life stories that happened way back. So you can imagine what used to happen and then extrapolate and think of what could be happening right now, right? In Ogun State, I remember this case because I was directly involved. 2008, a teacher who was called Pastor was arrested, having raped 10 children, ages 2 to 10. The first question I ask is, what were their parents? How come their parents didn't observe that something was going on? In June 2008, at Yaba Magistrate Court, a man was prosecuted for severally raping an 8-year-old. It was later found that the girl has been infected with HIV, right? In 2008, Lagos, this woman ran to my office, was wailing, right? And because she didn't know, we believe the fact that our husband was forcing himself on their 3-year-old daughter. It was one of the most pathetic cases I ever handled, right? She was shivering, she was wailing. I couldn't hold myself, right? And there was Mr. Fred who lived with his son. I was not aware that his 4-year-old was being sodomized by the houseboy. This guy was sodomized 4 years by the houseboy. They hired another houseboy who took over and sodomized the boy. And by the time the boy hit his teenage years, the boy started saying that, his sexual orientation is different from what it was. He walked into my office at the age of 23, looked at me and said, "Praise, I'm female, I'm woman." And I'm like, "No, you look like a man." He said, "No, you don't understand." And it took me like 1.5 years to walk with this guy. Now, in some countries, I will not be able to do that in our age and time because of legislation. So you need to understand that what we call predators have moved totally from human beings, uncle touching, to legislations, to systems, and I'll explain that shortly. Now, there was a 4-year-old image who was sexually molested by his auntie. There was a Rena. I remember Rena, right? Was 9 when the family caretaker tried to forcefully have his way with her. She swore never to have anything to do with a man. She became a lesbian, right? And she said it was a sister that introduced her to lesbianism because that's also experienced. So you see a lot of things happening domestically that people are not aware of. There was a 20-month-old baby that was raped in a nursery school in Ibadan. That case till date still did not have justice. 7-year-old raped by a stepfather, several in Lagos, till the school discovered, right? Those were cases I handled. Now, usually, I used to write for this day newspaper as at then. And in those years and time, I would ask children during Children's Day to write out back to me what they were experiencing that they couldn't tell their parents, right? And so these were some of the things children used to write to me way back, right? And this was came a 9-year-old. He said, "Thank you for teaching us about sexual abuse, but how do you report to your father's younger brother who raped you to your father? I hate the man anytime I see him, but I don't know what to do." Tonya said, "My friend at school has been touching my penis whenever I go to toilet. He's been telling me my penis is too small, and if I had sex, my penis becomes bigger." So you can see conversations that 7-year-olds have been way back, right? "Uncle, is it true?" "Dear uncle, my parents are bankers and they're not usually at home. When I return from school, our gate man will usually come to the house and touch my body and ask me not to tell anyone else that I will die." This was because they are age 7. 11, I've been telling my father that I want to change my school, but what I found so hard to tell him is that our seniors in our school practice for karama with the juniors and threatening to kill us if we tell our parents. This was the first time I actually knew about for karama, and I went and investigated, and I found it in a lot of boarding houses. Right, this was James at 11. Now, Uncle P, my parents don't bother to find out what I go through, and I hate them, and I could kill my dad because of the hatred I have for him and his brother. My uncle raped me when I went for the last vacation at Baltimore. This happened in the United States of America that year, and the girl, of course, we were able to see some of their true parents, and we were able to handle some of this stuff, but they were all preventable. Noye says, "Thanks for coming to talk to us because I have a deep secret I can't talk about. Our help self is always asking to touch ourselves whenever my parents are not at home. And she told us that we will die if we tell anyone. Is it true?" These were realities that young people were going through in that age and time. This is 2023. African parents, you are on this forum. And we need to be having these village conversations consistently amidst ourselves, because no one would save our children except us. No one will help us except us. As you can see, if you're living in any African country, leadership in many of African countries have failed the people. So if you are thinking that government is going to help us regulate music, government cannot even help themselves, right? As you can see. So if you are still expecting government that cannot give you water, that cannot give you power, government that cannot give you student loan, government that cannot give you mortgage, if you are still expecting if you're still expecting government to do anything for you, then you don't live in Africa. We literally will need to morph ourselves into a force and begin to do things by ourselves. And I will explain some of this because now I live in North America. I see what is happening, and my heart goes out to a lot of African parents, and I begin to say there is a lot that we need to do. So this is 2023, and the sex predators are less of human beings. In fact, human beings are not out of it. There is still that uncle, that auntie touching that person, molesting this person, raping this person, right? But it's now more of systems, innovations, and legislations that subtly molest our children and get them into a state of confusion where they start to question their identity. So what happens right now, because Africans, especially in the diaspora, we don't have our own school that our children can attend. We have to go to everybody's school, right? And some of the even institutions that used to be religious that will insist that this is what they want to believe about gender, about sexuality. Many of them are now changing those stands, right? Of course, for obvious reasons, because they don't solely fund what they're doing. So it's partly government and partly them. So many of them are being scripted or challenged to change some of their hard stands. I went for a fundraising during the week of a Christian group in America, and I just wanted to check, what their values are about, the ultra movement. And I was shocked that somebody withdrew funding because they would not support certain things and whatever. Right now, I am a bit careful because this has been streaming on YouTube. So when we get into our closed group later after today, right, there are things I'll share with you guys, right? But you need to know that the real predators right now are systems, right? Systems. I don't know how many of you have tried to watch Netflix, for example, right? If you watch any movie on Netflix, what have you observed? Let me check. Okay, go to the chat box and tell me, what have you observed? If you are watching movies on Netflix, there is something that is changing very fast. Can you tell me what you have observed? Let me see if you guys have been observant, right? Okay, good. I can see Joy. Joy, you got it. You were spot on. You were the first to respond and you got it. Nice, you all got it. Now, have you asked yourself, who are the people behind this ideology, right? Have you checked the board of this movement, of the owners of that platform, right? And we cannot say children should move away from those platforms, right? You can't say that, absolutely. However, you can't even move away from the platform because they have the best moving streaming platform. However, what he's saying is this: if there is any platform that is saying anybody that can buy up that platform or own majority stake holding in the platform is the person that will control the content. So if all of us in this forum, for example, let's say there is a platform whose content we don't like, we decide to say, you know what, we are buying it up. If we buy it up, we can impose our values on those platforms. But what we do oftentimes is we focus on the lesser battle lines and we major on the minor. And I'm going to be very open and share this with you because, see, if we continue the way we are continuing right now, Africa will be taken. I'm glad that other parts of the world are coming back to say, now we need to preserve our culture. So if you have been monitoring the news, China has come out to say there is a limit to what we're going to take. This and this and this and this are the things we're never going to take. And you can't bully us because we have the Chinese traditional culture. Now, you know that Africa has got African traditional culture, and that's why some things does not find expression in our local language because our language does not recognize those things, right? So it's not enough to say you don't watch this. What of the other platforms that exist, right? Your children are going to go to school, they're going to watch all those things, right? So it's about systems, it's about innovations, right? It's about legislation. So I'll give an example. When we wanted to advertise this meeting, right, there was a particular write-up we put and there was a particular way our flyer looked. When we tried to advertise it on Facebook, it flagged it. It said, no, that is not allowed, right? And basically, it was the word heterosexuality that was flagged, right? And I was like, why would you flag heterosexuality? So we had to change the flyer from heterosexuality to maybe sexual abuse. That became acceptable, right? So I understand what is going on. Guys, there is war going on. And if we don't fortify ourselves, we may be a victim of what we don't even understand, right? So legislations that subtly molest our children and get them into a state of confusion where they begin to question their identity. You know, when this whole case started, I warned parents. I said, the real end is not that they want your child to become them. The real end is that they want what you don't accept to be acceptable. So if your child, if they say to you right now that your child is a teenager, let's say is a godly child, your child had sex at school, right? Or maybe they caught your child kissing another person, right? You are not likely to be as angry as a parent, an African parent, if they said it was an opposite sex your child was kissing, as you would have been angry if they said it was maybe same sex your child was kissing. You know why? And that's exactly the victory. The victory for them is the fact that your heart stance has relaxed a little bit, right? So you see parents say, thank God, at least Shebi, my child is doing opposite sex, right? Thank God, though, you know, and things like that. And of course, it's still a loss and it's still a win for them. So you need to understand the battle lines, because many of us don't understand the battle line. Now, the question is, are we losing the battle or we're still winning? The answer is we're losing the battle, and you all know the answers. Now, I always love this. If anywhere I've spoken in the last 3 months, I've shared the scripture. It says, any enterprise is built by wise planning. Any enterprise. There's no enterprise on this planet, right, that is not built by wise planning. Someone is here in the UK that asking us to accept and respect life of man with man, woman with woman, must be, you know. So any enterprise is built by wise planning. What it means is you can no longer leave parenting to chances. You can no longer leave parenting and, you know, say my child is safe. No, Africa never used to be like that. It was colonization that turned us to, you know, self-centered, self-interest driven. Even after colonization, we still had community parenting where we watched over everybody's children and we ensured that every child was fine, because no child is safe until every child becomes safe. So any enterprise is built on wise planning. Wise planning requires a lot of knowledge, because wisdom is the application of knowledge, the right knowledge. To acquire the right knowledge, it will not come by you just saying, oh God, I cover my child with the blood of Jesus, which is what we do. And it has happened before. Many years ago, I approached the church and I said to the church, you know what? There is sexuality education, abuse going on. Can we implement sexual education for your church? I was begging to do it for free that year. This was 2005. I was begging to do it for free. I said, you don't need to pay me. I will do it, right? You know what they said to me? Our children are covered by the blood of Jesus. Our world church is a Bible-believing church. So I left. About 5 years later, right, they came to look for me. Why? Because now they found some of the teachers who are abusing their children. Unfortunately, about 2 of the teachers they found were people who had leaning towards same-sex relationship. It was a very bad situation. So they had to call me back, you know, and I said to them, well, maybe you are covered by the blood of Jesus and things like that. You know, sometimes we say things that the Bible did not even ask us to say, you know, in a bid to escape from taking responsibilities. There is the place for prayer. There's a place for thinking. There's the place for eating. There's a place, give unto Caesar what is Caesar and what is God, what is God. You cannot replace prayers with thinking. You cannot replace thinking with prayers. You cannot replace prayer with taking responsibilities, right? A lot of us will just want to we don't want to take responsibilities. We just want to pray and we think everything is all right. No, what sets free is the truth. It's not activity. So any enterprise is built by wise planning, becomes strong through common sense. Become strong through common sense. And you know, like we say, common sense is not always common, right? But profit wonderfully by keeping abreast of the fact. What does that mean exactly? That profiting will come by keeping abreast of facts. And facts are sacred. Facts are always changing. So if you don't understand the facts are always changing, the facts can change and you are still stuck in the old. And that is what is happening. That's why a lot of children can actually sell their parents and their parents are not aware of what is happening. Okay, good. So there are 4 battle lines that I always share. I've shared it everywhere I've gone. Then I'll tell you 4 things you need to, that is responsible for where we are, and 4 things you need to know, and we'll be done. Okay, number 1, there is the battle line of identity that our children are confronted with. Number 2 is the battle line of history. Number 3 is the battle line of the village system. And number 4 is the battle line of mission. So let me break that down a little bit. The battle line of identity is, if you ask your child, you can go ahead and ask your child today, who are you? You might be shocked that your child can't answer that question. Once identity is compromised, a child becomes susceptible to all sorts of things, because at the core, that's why we say that in the formative years, you must ensure that your child master his identity and your child begins to promote his identity everywhere they go. So who do we say we have? And what does that mean exactly? If you say to your child, you're an African, what does it mean, right? What is the ethos? What are the values? What are the belief system of an African? What are the customs? What is the faith of an African? We do not have that articulated, right? Then the identity is now threatened with the ultra agenda. Now, the ultra agenda are the different agenda that's now saying that, okay, sex is sacrosanct, gender is whatever you call yourself, right? I'm not going to begrudge them. I'm not going to fight with them. However, of course, you can see whatever the world is turning into, right? So the lack of intentional articulated identity, when your child does not know who he is, or your child cannot promote who he is, your child becomes susceptible. We say that every misbehavior can be traced to 2 things. 1, a non-remembrance of self, and a non-discovery of self. So someone is asking, what translation of Bible do I use? I use a combination of both, but these days I use more of the Message translation. Right. So what would, if a child does not know who he is, he's going to mess up. If he forgets himself, he's going to mess up. So in your raising your child, you need to ensure that your child begins to act in consonance with his identity. So every time your child goes out of order, the first question you want to ask your child is, who are you? Right? Because it's possible that your child has forgotten. So you want to keep having that conversation till your child master who they are. So the first line of battle is the battle of identity. And that's why, if you observe, right, that a lot of Black Americans struggle with their identity, because it takes us to the second, which is a sense of history. The moment your history is taken away from you, your identity is compromised, because there are elements of identity. Your language is one of them. I was sharing in House of Saviors this morning that, is it not amazing that our language was called vernacular growing up? Then our own people by themselves, they appointed a class captain to write down the list of the people who speak vernacular, who speak our language, right? And they beat the people who spoke our language in our school, in our land, and we all clap for them. And we brag that, you know what, I don't speak Yoruba, I don't speak Igbo. I speak English. I don't just speak English, I speak Queen's English. I mean, that conditioning is I don't know how they managed to do it. So when my language became vernacular, God forgive all of you are class captains here. All of you who were writing our names that year and making teachers to beat us for speaking Yoruba, God forgive all of you. They are here, all the class captains. Just recognize yourself and say, I am here. God forgive all of you, right? But imagine what happened to us. So we were totally reconditioned to not be ourselves anymore. So you wonder why we struggle with low self-esteem, why we struggle with jealousy, why we struggle to understand innovation, because it is not taught in our language. If you are Yoruba, for example, if you want to groan or you want to pray, there are things that English has no expression for. That is the way you praise your God, right? So if you say to God, for example, Ogbagban tiriba, Ogbagba tingbelese, aloke anile, alano aloni, how do you interpret that in English? If you try to interpret it in English, your soul cannot accept it. You know why? Because it is not you. But a language was taken away, a new language was given to us that we would never master. Our religion was taken away, a new religion was given to us that we would never master. Okay, somebody says, they don't know I speak Yoruba. I speak Yoruba very well, right? You know, there are things that only your language can express, right? And so when you don't find word for that, you know, so you molest people who add the language. What's the purpose of language? Communication. right? So let's even assume I say, I come, I go. I'm a student in this school. I go there. I see teacher, come, go. You understand what I'm saying? The sophistication of what I'm saying is what you understand. You should be able to excuse me to know that I at least can communicate. Maybe that I cannot communicate in your language doesn't mean I am inferior. But you know what was done? They made our language feel inferior, and we accepted it. If I ask you right now, how many of you do your children speak your language? I can almost bet that 90% of us, our children don't speak our language. So our culture is gradually going to go into extinction because the first language many of us learned was our mother tongue, right? That's why it's called mother tongue. The first language our children are learning is no longer mother tongue. They are learning English. When they're going to raise their children, what are they going to teach their children? So our history is gone. What is our heritage, right? We don't know. So if I ask you now, if I ask your child, do you know the name of your grandfather? Maybe your child can know. Do you know the name of your great-grandfather? Does your child know? Do you know the name of your great-great-grandfather? So if you are here, your child can tell me right now the name of your great-great-grandfather. Can you type yes? If your child does not know that information, can you type no? Let's see. Let me see. You see, and say it is well, it is well, it is well. Now, what is happening there is that your child does not know your history. So if your child does not know your history, they will give your child the history of a people you don't even know. So they will tell your child that Mungo Park discovered River Niger, right? As if there were no human beings in River Niger when Mungo Park got there. Meanwhile, what happened was Mungo Park was the first European to land in River Niger. That's the real truth. But they say Mungo Park discovered River Niger. And we wrote that in exam. Who discovered River Niger? Options: Mungo Park, Songo Park, Sungo Park, Jango Park. All of us wrote Mungo Park. Which of the indigenous people were there, right? Of course, narrative management. So history. Where is our heritage? Now, I intentionally wear my African attire in America most of the times, right? Intentionally. I intentionally introduce myself in a particular way. Any meeting I go for, introduce yourself. I say, my name is Praise Forward. I am the descendant of the ancestry that created the first smart city in the world. That city is called Benin City, and it happened between 1300 and 1700 before the British destroyed it. That's where I introduce myself, because I have a Benin heritage, right? Now, what story are we telling ourselves? What do you tell your children about Africa? Do you tell them bad things about Africa? How Africa is bad, Africa is this, Africa is that? Once you begin to do that, what you are doing is you are creating an imbalance at the realm of their mind. And once imbalance is created at the realm of their mind, there is a vacuum that they begin to look for what to fill it with. They will fill it with any group that looks like they love them. They will fill it with marijuana. They will fill it with sex. They will fill it with drink. They will fill it with anything, because that vacuum is there, right? Are you guys still with me? If you are still here and you are learning, can you type yes? Let me see, YouTube people. Okay, we have quite a number of people on YouTube. Okay, good. My people on Zoom, I can see you. Zoom is totally packed. Okay, YouTube, I'm with you as well. I'm enjoying you. I'm watching you. I'm observing you. Well done. Get your friends to join you on YouTube as well. Fantastic. Now, number three battle line. Okay, guys, it's, thank you very much. It's your village. Where is the support system? Africa says it takes a village to raise a child, right? Now, where's your village? Of course, you know the village they're talking about. It's no longer the village you came out from. Because our village has not developed. One of my foster father was buried in somewhere in Odobolu over the weekend, right? And that's the man who literally, took over when my father died, Lieutenant General Deepwater, right? And I was watching it from here, and I saw that Odobolu used to look like what he used to look like, right? So our village has not evolved. Our village has not developed. Right? And so when you land in the UK, the Indian community is there to welcome you. When you land in the US, the Indian community is in every state there to welcome you. They live together, they do things together. When you land as an African, you are on your own. right? And the hand of the people you land into, God help you, because they may determine your fate, right? Okay, so Adewale says, a student in my class once said Africa is a zoo. Can you imagine, right? So where is the support system? Without a village, your child will not have a support system. So imagine if your child is in a school and there's an African village in there. Nobody is going to talk to your child anyhow. You know, sometimes I just look at what our children are diagnosed of, right? And I'll get there shortly, right? Because some of these things, if we don't begin to come out with our own science, with our own explanation. So, for example, take a lot of children diagnosed of ADHD. I'm not saying ADHD does not exist. It does exist. However, right, by the time I ask parents, your child has been diagnosed of ADHD, can you list the behavior they saw that made them confirm that your child has ADHD? By the time they list some of these symptoms for me, I always ask parents, when you were in primary school or secondary school in Africa, do you know any child who acts like this, your child? Then almost every parent said, this was the way almost all of us were. So I said, how did you believe the opinion of people who don't really know you that much? And it's not that they are wrong. And this is my own theory, and I'm not saying it is correct, but this is my theory. In the US, for example, or UK, a child only has 3 months in the year in which they can play freely outside. Even in Dallas that I am right now, a child cannot freely play out because the heat is extreme, right? So let's say a child has 3 months to play summer, to play outside. Other 9 months of the year is cold, is playing indoor. So it doesn't have access to sun. The way, meanwhile, in Africa, we don't have heat and cold. We just have it all year, right? Dry season is all we have, and rainy season, that's not even cold. Now, a typical African child plays in outside round the year. He sees the sun every day of his life, right? Even inside rain, he's still playing. Now, the energy and the hyperactiveness is, I don't call it hyperactiveness, the activeness of that child is going to be different from a child who only sees sun 3 months in a year. Now, if you move that child who has big football field, who has long break, short break, he has all these things. If you bring that child into a system where you have only 3 months to play outside, you put him in a class, there will be restlessness in his spirit, right? Because he's not used to being constrained. He's used to being outdoor, playing. Now, the child is not, there is nothing totally wrong with that child, right? And there is nothing wrong with the other child. They are just different. Now, instead of us to study and say, okay, maybe because of where this one is coming from, right? This is the reality and that's the reality. Many of us just take whatever they say, hook, line, and sinker, and before you know it, your child is being medicated. That's a typical, but if you have a village system, as they are saying that, let's say the social workers from Africa stands there and say, oh, there's nothing wrong with the child. That's actually the way typical African child is, and blah, 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 blah. Maybe we would have been better off, right? So what is our parenting template? We don't have. Last word is mission. The battle line of mission. What is our mission as Africans? Why are we here? What does success mean to us? And who exactly do we represent? These are critical questions we need to begin to ask. Now, here are 4 reasons why we are losing our hold on the new battle lines. Number 1, disruption of community parenting system, right? Gone are the days, I always say to parents that I could have become a, what do you call it now? I could have been gambling. But the day I went into a gambling hall, right? Because my father gave me 50 kobo, and I spent it, and I had 10 kobo left. And my friend took me to a place and said, if we put money there and we pull the thing down, right, it will bring money. And I got in there. As I was about to do it, I looked at the man, and he looked at me, and he asked me a question. Are you for where? I said, yes. He said, before I open my eyes, I will slap you. Get out of here. Your parents and your family don't do things like this. That was community parenting. Now, that has been taken off us. It has now given way for a situation where parents cannot correct other people's children. Their parents will get upset. So you see a child on the road, I was driving. I used to run some radio show in Lagos, Nigeria. So I was driving from the studio one night. This was at about 11 p.m. And I saw an adult man pinning a girl that should be like 14, 15 on the wall at that time. And my driver drove past. And I said, no, can you reverse? We need to free that girl. And my driver said, they may have gone. I said, so be it. So we drove past and I screamed, Agbaya, free that girl. And the girl left his grip and ran home. The question is, what parent kept their child out at that time of the day? My father will always say that Oru many or what that means is the darkness is not a respectable, is not a respecter of an honorable man. So in my house, I was taught to get home at 9 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, everyone is home, right? So there is disruption of our community parenting system. And that's one of the things, one of the biggest damages that has been done to us, because we need to learn to collaborate now, right? So our identity, our language as a source of instruction. I mean, remember the things we used to, how did we learn values really? Go back in time. If you are 40 and above, you remember the stories they will tell you under the apple tree at night. If you grew up in the village, there were folk tales. In fact, there were characters that were used to teach us morals. Characters like Tortoise and his wife called Yonibo, if you are from the Yoruba speaking part. So the Tortoise has a wife. So everything, Tortoise is regarded as a wise guy and corny guy, craftsman, his wife Yonibo, right? And so they used a tortoise and his wife to teach us a lot of things, right? And that was how we learned not to steal. That was how we learned contentment. That was how we learned many of these things, right? It wasn't even as much as what we were taught in our religious houses. It was much more about what we were taught at home. So disruption of community parenting is one of the reasons. The Igbos have the same thing. The Igbos have all kinds of stories, all kinds of legends, mythology that taught us to behave in a particular way. What has happened to those stories? Tales by Moonlight. Thank you. God bless you. Right. Number two is poor systems intelligence. Right. The battle we are fighting, we are responding to a well-oiled and articulated system with emotion. So they bring wrong songs to us. We respond with, oh God, we banish this song. It will not work on our children. Social media is here. We are praying against social media. Everything that happens, we attack with prayers, right? No, you need to first understand the battle to create an intervention, right? So oftentimes our response is emotional. So we get into frenzy, we cry, we scream. After that, what next? Are we designing systems? Are we observing what has worked in times past and reinvent them and upgrade them and pull them into something new? Are we observing what the Chinese, the Japanese, the Jews are doing, the Indians are doing with their children right now, and copy and domesticate or implement and apply it to our own reality without losing our essence? So we are so sure, right? We are so strong on emotions, but we are weak when it comes to system. But the battles you are fighting is a systems battle. It's not an emotions battle. We cannot respond to bad movies on platforms with just prayers. We now need to respond with quality content, superior music, superior movies. We now need to begin to fold our hands and begin to create and recreate our own stories and tell our stories as against our stories being told for us by people who don't understand our story. Number three is inadequate warfare strategies. We don't understand the enemy and the end game. Like I said, the end game is not that your children are going to become them. The end game is that your value system is going to be totally a mess, in which you can't even correct your children anymore. You will be grateful that your child is at least doing this wrong, but is an inferior wrong to the superior wrong, right? So we do not understand warfare strategies. See, in winning any war, strategy is very, very key. Strategic intervention becomes very key. So you need to understand the enemy. The enemy is no longer that woman in the village. That woman in the village is an inferior enemy. The witch that wants to kill you is an inferior enemy. The bigger enemy is the enemy that legislates for your child to go to a place and for what you have taught your child as father, mother, to change right under his nose, and for your child to see father, father, and for your child to agree that father, father is father, mother, right? Those are sophisticated enemies that you are dealing with, right? And is bigger and higher than all the witches we are still talking about praying against in the village, right? Those ones cannot even feature in this war that we are talking about. So inadequate warfare strategy. And that takes me to the fourth one, ineffective child protection system. When it comes to child protection, you know, the state, the community, the family, all of them must come together to protect, to promote the best interest of the child. We have not had that in Africa. So in Nigeria, for example, the Child Rights Act, which is the act that protects children, has not been passed in several states in Nigeria. You know why? Those are the states that still hold the belief that you can marry a child. And if we say we are a nation, we want to protect a child, why would one side of the country protect children and say, you know what, if a child is less than 18, you can't marry her? Yet, some people can still take a 13-year-old and marry them in some states, and we are quiet about it. So it means that a child needs to escape to certain states for the child to be protected, right? And so when our laws are emotional, our laws are not together. So we say it's a nation, but there are other people with other laws that contradict the reality of what we're dealing with. So if you go to some parts of the country and you do some things, they can stone you to death, even without the police, right? And there's no consequence. So ineffective child protection system is one of the reasons why we're here, right? But you know, the interesting thing is that if government is not helping us, there's a way we can help ourselves, right? I can tell you for free. Maybe apart from Lagos State in Nigeria, maybe a few other states, you know, especially Lagos. Lagos has the best system when it comes to response to child molestation and child abuse and what have you, right? But our child protection, even in the family, how do you invite people to come and live with you, right? Your uncle is coming from the village to come and live with you. Do you know your uncle? Are you interviewing him? Do you know the values he carries? Do you know, how do you ensure that your uncle doesn't turn out to be a molester? Or your uncle is coming, he likes pornography, he watches pornography on his phone because he's an adult. Your child is going to use uncle's phone to study, and your child begins to consume pornography on uncle's phone. What are you going to do to the uncle? Are you going to send him out of your house? How are you going to handle that? You are likely going to say the bond of brotherhood does not break. So you get emotional. That's ineffective child protection system. So the last part of this presentation is, what is the way out? I'll take your questions, don't worry. 4 things we need to pay attention to as I begin to round up. Number 1, we need to create an effective governing system. Everyone on this call, I'm going to appeal to you. If your family does not have an effective system, you are at risk, big risk. What does that simply mean? Now, I can't get into this in this forum. If I help you create a family governing system, I'll need to do like 4 or 5 sessions with all of you, right? And I'll check to ensure that you got it right. Now, in your family governing system, because the battle ahead is a battle of tribes, and that is why, please don't make a mistake. Any movement you see in the world today, let them name themselves anything, that has an agenda, that has a color code, and that has a flag, it's not just a group. Don't be naive. Any movement that has a color, that has a flag, and that has an agenda is a nation. So you are dealing with a sophisticated nation that is a huge network across the globe, and you want to fight them as an individual, you're not going to succeed. And it's not because God is not with you, it's because it takes a system to engage a system. That is why your family can no longer be emotional. You now need to be tactical in building system. And in family governing system, you want to create your family identity. What is your family identity? Who are you as a family? Your identity has to be clear. 2, your family must have a clear family vision that is owned by everybody and anybody in your family. If people are coming to live with you, they have to subscribe to your family vision. There has to be what we call a family acculturation system, like a handbook that they go through that helps them understand how your family works. So, for example, if nobody watches African Magic in your family, when they come from the village, or even your mother, you need to take them through orientation program to say, we're sorry, we don't watch that here, right? Without apologies. Because many of us are emotional, and it's because we have not built an effective governance system. Your family must become a nation. So your identity must be articulated. Your vision must be clear. Everybody in your family must know the vision. If you come to my family right now, everybody knows the vision. We used to have the family vision. When my children grew to ages 10 and 14, they called a meeting and they said, Daddy, before we were born, we were not part of you, created this vision. Can we now have input so that I can change a little bit? And they had input and they were actually correct. And we changed it a bit based on their input, right? So your identity, your family vision, your family values must be intentionally, there's a process to creating these things that I can't share here, but you need to do it. Then the DNA creed. DNA creed is a believable statement that puts all your values together, that governs the behavior of everyone in your family. Once your children can own your family systems, your family governing system, you can go to bed, trust me. Then the legends of your family, which is where you tell the story of your family. What is the uniqueness of your family? Who was your great-great-great-great-grandfather? Who founded the name you're answering right now? Who was the first to answer that name? Why did they choose that name? Do you know your history? Some of you have fathers who were great hunters. Some of you have great-great-grandfather who were great DBS, great herbalists, right? Now, I know that our Christian values or Muslim values may not approve what they were doing. And honestly, many of us don't even know what they were doing, right? We don't know whether it was deeply spiritual or something. But there was greatness in them. You can turn that story into a greatness story and create a legend of your family for every member of your family to know that there is greatness in all of us. There is something unique about every family. For some families now, and I want you to do this and answer the question on the chat box. I want you to take a look into your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, both on maternal and paternal side. There must be one behavior that is common to them. It's either they are leaders, they are innovators, they are activists, they are managers, they are industrialists. There is something common about them. If you can find it in your family, what did you find? Can you write it down on the chat box? Let me see. Let me see what you found out. By looking back into your genealogy, there is something that is common. Maybe they are scholars, maybe they are honesty. Thank you, leaders, royalty. Can you see? Can you see? So you guys, they are so industrialists, business, entrepreneur. You know what? If you turn that into the legend of your family, it is more believable to your children than, and this is not disrespect. I'm a Christian. I believe the Bible. Your children are likely going to believe and hold onto that to their soul more than to tell them about David or Apostle Paul. They read about Apostle Paul. They don't know Apostle Paul. Apostle Paul is not from their village, right? We draw inspiration from the Bible. I mean, I'm led by the Bible, but my children will believe the story of someone they can touch, someone they can see his picture, to say this as the person even look like you. So this is it. You need to create the legend of your family. So you can see some families are activists, royalty, leaders, consultants, and blah, blah, blah. And so you can see. So every child in your family has that DNA. That is what makes up their identity. So when they stand in any part of the world, and someone looks down on them and say, you black monkey, say, no, my family has an ancestry of innovation. My great-great-grandfather was the first to do this. Grandfather was first to do this. Grandfather was first to do this. Father was first to do it. And this is me. This is what I have done. Those are the stories we have forgotten. Guys, you need to go back to that story. Has this been helpful? Let me see if it has been helpful. Because that's just 1 out of 4. Has this particular part been helpful? Guys, let me see your response. Right, good, good, good. Very helpful, very helpful. So you can see the adjustment we need to make. Number two thing we need to do, we need to master systems intelligence, guys. The new battle deploys systems and legislation, not just persons. That is why the new parents in town are content creators, content platforms, and lawmakers. If you are here, you hate politics, then you hate your children. We must love politics because politics is what creates policy. Legislation are not done on our knees. We can decree, but God will not come to Nigeria to legislate. He will not go to Cameroon to write the law. We need to show up there and ensure that our laws speak to our identity. If you leave those places, for people who don't have value system, they will give them money, and before you know it, it's gone. So in systems intelligence, we say prayers alone don't defeat a script. It takes a superior script to defeat an existing script. So we cannot defeat contrary content with prayers alone. Have you gone on Facebook video? Have you noticed that every content on Facebook video is about sex, is about having sex, having sex? Young people, they are now showing their faces. Go and check. Every content you find there, it's about sex. It's about somebody sleeping with some bestie, sleeping with bestie, and fight, violence. So we cannot continue to just pray alone. We must keep praying, but we must rise and now begin to mobilize. Who can create content? Which of us has artistic skill to write scripts, right? How can we fund it? How can we take it to the cinema? The ones who can do adverts, how can they push it? How do we ensure that we push our values, we tell our stories? That's why I appreciate what some of our movie makers are now doing. They are telling our traditional stories, right? Our creative parents and mentors must now work together. So we now, as a people, must now ask, who are our legislators? So all of us are here now. Who here is representing us in National Assembly? Who from us is representing us at the judiciary? Who from us is a governor? Who has risen from us? Who is a mayor in a particular town, county, whether in the UK, in the US? How do we get our people into power? Are you aware that, for example, in the UK, you are eligible to contest to vote and be voted for if you are from a Commonwealth country? Are you aware? Right? So we cannot just abdicate politics to them. Systems intelligence says we need to feature in the action point and ensure that our voices are heard and that we show up there. So who are our legislators? Who are our social workers? If you are coming to America, don't just think of going to study nursing. Go and become a social worker. You will be more needed than even the nurse, because you are the ones they will call when an African child is beaten or an African child eats another child. You need to be able to show perspective for them to have better understanding of our children. When you go to your child's school, serve on the ESCOs list, right? Raise your hand to be voted for. Make sure you are in the committee. Don't get so busy, because things are determined when we are busy looking for what to eat, what to wear, right? Who are our judges? Who are our movie makers? Who are our angel investors? We must be able to fund African ideas that speaks to our magnificence. I love this person is saying, if there's a group for this, like children animation, I am interested. Please talk to me. We need to go as a force. It cannot just be about me. See, and this is not disrespect, I pray. If prayer can solve all this problem, Africa will be first world country. Nobody prays more than us. But we must not stop praying, but we must now collaborate beyond prayer to now start to create content and push policies and write movies and create platforms and content that can set our children free. Because if you tell them, don't do this, right? Don't do this, we cannot say don't do this and not create alternative, right? So, number 3 is we need to empower African kids against predators. And that talks about age-appropriate sexual education, right? And not just that, what we have now done is we must now tell them the story of our heroes, right? We don't need them there. We need them, the ones in America, to know about Washington. We need them to know about Thomas Jefferson. But we also need them to know about Thomas Nkrumah. We need them to know about Obafemi Awolowo. We need them to know about our African heroes and our African legends. So if you are here, sexual education, I mean, for those of you who have encountered this, we're bringing it back again next year. But this time around, what we're doing is we're going to put children and parents within the same age range together. Round the year, what to teach your child about sex from January to December. We're going to be in different classes and we're going to teach you. So we'll teach you to go and teach your child, teach you to go out there. You come back with results, come back with report, and then what is happening and how we can support you and blah, 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 blah. Because we now need to move as a team. So from ages 2 to 3, you teach body and high. For those of you who have been with me for long, you know, you use songs. There are songs you use to teach body parts, right? You teach the difference between private parts and public parts. You teach what you do to your private part. You teach the 4 golden rules of the body. Curiosity and I is what you teach from ages 4 to 6. At that age, your child is asking several questions. You need to be there to provide answers, or else other people will give answers that contradict your values, right? So parents of that age range, curiosity and I, you teach fire on the mountain, bad movies, bad pictures, bad song, bad friend. They're still using songs and stories and games here, right? So there's what to teach from January to December of each year. Ages 7 to 9 is awareness and I. That is where you teach them world changers, stories of people that change the world. That's where you teach them about the lies of the predator. That's where you teach them about the consequence of allowing predators to touch you. That's where you teach them, a little bit about friendship, a little bit about values, a little bit about their identity. At the age of 9, every African child must have mastered their identity. That must be what we must shoot for. A Jewish child at 9 knows who he is. A Japanese child at 9 knows who he is. An Indian child already understands his heritage. We now need to collaborate and ensure our own children, month by month, they know exactly who they are, right? Then from ages 10 to 12, you teach life is good. That's when you teach puberty. That's when you teach self-esteem. Because let me tell you, we found out many years ago that 7, 8-year-olds were having sex. They are not just being molested. In fact, we discovered that a lot of children were now molesting more children as against adult molesting children, right? So 10 to 12, you teach puberty, low self-esteem, then you teach advanced sexual abuse prevention techniques, right? There's what to teach again from January to December. Then 13 to 15 is tasty and chaste. That's where you teach them about sex, you teach them about addiction, you teach them about mastering temptation. So many lessons to teach at that age, right? Now, I can't be going into those details, but I will ensure that we create platforms that will teach parents within the same age range every month, all through next year, January to December, so that you go and teach your children, then you come back, you give us feedback, what is happening, and blah, 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 blah. We're going to do that. Now, lastly, number 4, we need to learn to now build new African villages and a new ancestry. We always say that it takes a village to raise a child as Africans, right? And raising a new village is not, see, guys, I know we love our villages, where we came from, they are good. But if you send your child back to your village now, who do you think your child is going to become, right? Because village life has also been polluted. So we must now create our own village. We say the best way to predict the future is to create it. Because in creating a new African village, now that we have virtual, now I'm in America, I'm in Dallas, I'm in Texas, you guys are wherever you are, but all of us are having a village meeting now, right? Because in village, we need to agree, what do we want to believe as a people? What will be our customs? Something that is common to all of us. What is our language going to be, right? What are our rituals and our routines going to be? What is our faith as African people? What color do we want to promote? Some people have chosen rainbow, right? So every time, in fact, some parents now when they see rainbow, they associate it with something. About 15, 20 years ago, when you see rainbow, all of us love to see rainbow. What results do we want, right? What diets do we promote? What dressing do we promote as a people? What will be our attitude and what will be our vision? Those are critical elements of a culture that must be in place before you can say, this is my culture. Of course, we know it has not been documented, and Africa must now begin to document as a people. Whatever has worked for us, we must document it so that our children can read it. Because our own great-great-grandfather, there were things that worked for them. Many of us are from ancestry where our fathers were herbalists. They knew herbs. They knew the herbs that cured a particular problem, But some of us threw it away, threw their books away. We say their books are irrelevant and blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, we don't even know ourselves anymore. So we need to collaborate to build new African villages and a new ancestries. Now, so I am done literally for today. I'll take your questions, but how many of us are ready to preserve the African child? Right? How many of us are ready to preserve the African child? If you're ready, can you type, I am ready, I am ready, I am ready, I am ready. It's something we need to do together, guys. It's something we need to do together. We need to do this. And before, maybe in another 2 months, we'll have another forum. We'll have another question, another session where I'll teach something else. I'll do this from time to time. But there is something that we are launching, right? Which, if you are interested, you can join, right? We call it our New African Ancestors VIP community, right? It's something I do from year to year. I've not done it lately because it's honest, it's a bit expensive, right? My work has taken a new turnover time, and so it become a bit expensive. But what we're doing today is to find a way to get as many people as possible to join and make it a bit cheaper, right? And so if you join our New African Ancestor VIP community, right, you're going to have access for 1 year, right? And these are some of the things that, this program, I have run it before. Some of the people who took it are here, right? It was 2 million, that was what I charged, right? Or the equivalent in dollars, right? You have access to Alpha Code Parenting Session, which is a 4-week intensive session in class with me, right? That program alone on itself, we do it regularly. People who have done it are here. It's 150,000, right? You will have access to community parenting where you build effective family system around the year. This one, number 2 alone, I did it 2 years ago, round the year for people, and it was $1,000, right? Number 3, you will have monthly age-appropriate sexuality education, peer parenting classes, where whatever age your child is, you will be in class with peer people and you will learn what to teach your child for that month. You go and teach your child, you come back and tell us what is happening to your child. Then number 4, parenting support round the year with highly skilled coaches. You have coaches who are working with you and they'll support you. That on itself is worth $350. Access to 4 family system intelligence courses that help you parent successfully, worth 400,000 naira. Then access to family finance and education finance tips. So what schools your child go to? How does your child get scholarships abroad? And all those things will be in the group. Total package is what, 2 million. That's what we normally charge. Today's offer is 200,000, right? So you want to join, it launches October 1st. That's the onboarding day, right? When we onboard the people for 2024 program, right? And so from October 1st, you have access to all kinds of materials. You'll be in a group. You are working with like minds. So all the things I was saying I can't teach, we're going to learn it there in the group. So it's 200,000 for 1 year, right? And so today, if you want to activate your slot, they make the offer very easy for you. If you click on the link and you can reserve your slot with 10,000 naira, right? Or if you are in the diaspora, $30, right? If you do that, you'll be invited for the onboarding program in October 1st. And you can spread your payment around the year, right? If you want to pay once, it's fine, but you can spread it 4 times. But to book your slot is 10,000, right? So you can lock down your slot for today, right? And I know what is ahead is systems intelligence. It's not something we are skilled at, but it's something we need to learn. Right? We need to build communities in various nations of the world. At the House of Saviors level, we are building that already, but this is specifically a group on parenting and creating family systems, right? So take advantage of this offer. I hope to see you October 1st when we're doing the grand launch of the VIP. Is an exclusive group. If you are not there, I'll still come and do free webinar, but there are things, and trust me, this is the cheapest that we have tried to make this. It's 1 year that you have people working with you, having access to what you need to do. So go there and activate your offer, click the link. It's 10,000 naira or $30 today. Go click the link and join us. I look forward to having you in class. I'll take your question, but how many of you are joining me for this? If you're joining me, yeah. So 10,000 is to lock down your slot. You can spread the rest of your payment later, right? We'll tell you how to do. We invite you to come and if you are joining, can you type I am in? Let me see you. How many people are joining me in this? Let's see. Okay, guys. So it's 10,000. I mean, good, guys. I'm glad that we have a new generation of ancestors. We are going to do this together. We're going to provide support for you. We're going to ensure that you get it right. And we are going to move as a force and recreate the future of our continent and ensure that our children are fine. How much in pounds? You can just do the conversion. It's $500. I think that would be like 400 and something in pounds or 350 in pounds or something like that, right? But you can activate your offer if you are using pounds or dollars, 30 US dollars. It's been made extremely cheap. It's the cheapest program I have. Trust me, and I lie not. It's the cheapest because we want as many people as possible to be able to take advantage of this. It's less than any school fees, less than any flight ticket, but we need to support ourselves. So please, guys, the link to register, admin, can you put the link? People asking for the link. Let them sign up. Let as many people join. October 1st, we do the launch. I'll be in class with you. That one is a private session. I'll share with you the roadmap. We'll give access to all the courses you will need, all the support you will need, tell you how it's going to run. And then we run all through till the year 2024. That is what we need to do, guys. Get your family members, get them to join. We are going to do this together. Okay, thank you very much. I want you to know that it's time to build a generation that is bright, right, and tight. And like we say, the best way to predict the future of African kids is to create it. Now is the time to predict that future and safeguard our future. Thank you very much. God bless you. I'll take your questions if there are questions for me, but go sign up, activate your offer, 10,000 naira, $30 if you're outside of Africa. Thank you, everyone. I love you. I hope I've done a good job. Tolani, over to you.
Wow. So you would see what I was talking about when I said you should go and call your friends and family members so that you do not miss this. This has been super amazing. So let me know how you feel in the chat room. While you are telling me how you feel in the chat room, I'm quickly going to take 2 questions that I have here. If you have questions, please drop it. We have limited time on this call. Please drop your question. Someone is asking, my 5-year-old is asking me how he was born. Please, how do I respond?
Very, very simple. Daddy and mommy are married. Daddy and mommy, there's a special way they hold themselves, right? And a baby is born, a baby is planted in mommy's womb, and the baby spent 9 months and the baby comes. It depends on the worldview of your child. But the first question I always ask when children ask me that question is, why are you asking? How do you think children are born? Right? Because you don't want to assume that your child doesn't know. Your child may be testing you, right? And that kind of give you. So every time a child asks you a question, respond with a question to know what the child knows before you give the answer, right? But it's not out of place for a child to know what a child needs to know about how children are born, because your child can simply go online, especially to go your child what was I going to say? It's very important for you to know what your child knows before you respond, because your child, if he has access to gadgets, he can actually go online and say, how are babies born? And internet will give them answers, so you need to know what your child knows before you answer the question. Yeah. So someone is saying, I have a case about a 6-year-old being molested by her uncle. How can I help? Please, if that, I don't know what part of the country or what part, if that person is in Lagos, right, please escalate. There are agencies in Lagos that will respond to you and do justice to that. But if not, you can send us a mail. We'll guide you. You can send a mail to our office in Nigeria. We'll guide you through on how to go about that. Okay, yeah. Solani, any other question?
Yes, someone is saying my 8-year-old is asking me what is sex. How do I respond?
what is sex? Ask your child again, what does your child think sex? Where do your child hear that word from? Right? What does your child think sex is? Right? Because again, sex in itself can be defined in so many ways. So is it talking about sexuality? Is it talking about intercourse? Is it talking about, it can be anything, right? So depending on what, you see, if you have taught your child, if you have taught your child, some of you are sending the question directly to me, please send it to Tolani. She's the one that would say it. If you have taught your child sexuality education from ages 2 years, like we normally do, right? At that age, your child will not ask you that question because your child will have a clue, because there are things that would have been taught, right? So your child is most likely asking that question because nothing has been taught. So I got a testimonial from someone just before we came into this class. I'm coming, let me look for it. I think I sent it to Tolani. So this woman was saying that, good evening, Mr. Praise. Trust you're having a great weekend. Thanks for, so she bought a course called Child Power. Child Power is our sexuality education, basically. It's on our website. You can buy it, right? But if you are part of the VIP, it's part of what you're going to get anyways. He says, I have done lessons 1 and 2 with my girls, ages 10 and 12, and it is helping us build a fresh and bold children. So we have a mini picnic in my room with different fruit salad to chew as we're listening and discussing. Imagine learning from my girl in year 7 that they in our age group jokingly refer to oral sex as 69, especially when maths answer in class is 69 or class is bored. Someone will just stylishly say 69, which they just laugh over, but teacher or adult around doesn't understand their joke, right? Lesson 2 discussion, when you ask them to teach their parents something different from puberty that you didn't mention, brought about this discussion. I am budgeting more to buy more of your courses bit by bit and practice the concept. Now that is a parent. So I need to know what you have taught your child about sex before answering that question. And if I don't know, I might need to recommend that maybe there's a book we have called Super Kids that you can get your child to read. It's a conversation starter, right? But there is a way to, based on our African values and based on the values we want to promote, there's a way we define sex that is different from what dictionary is going to give to them. Yeah.
Okay, so we have more questions here. This person says, what do you do if you become an outcast? Because one uncle who molested his 2 nieces was arrested and jailed for some months, but with pleas, he was released.
Sorry, can you take that again?
What do you do if you become an outcast? Because one of your uncle molested his 2 nieces, and he was arrested and jailed for some months, but with pleas, he was released. So maybe the family are now ganging up against this person because the uncle, was arrested for molesting the niece.
Okay, what you want to do is please get us involved. We have a lot of agencies that work in this area that we can refer you to, can help, who can step in. So it means that the family is saying they are complex, and that's the problem we have in Africa, where somebody molests a child and we say, oh no, it's our family member, let us cover it up and things like that, right? So we might be able to guide you, because some of the cases, they are a bit sensitive and we need to be very careful how we go about it, right? We need to be very careful. So I would say that you talk to us. I think, Tolani, can you guys drop your email address, the official email address, so that they can send in the questions, and maybe you can invite them or do a clarity session, and we know who to assign them to, because we will need location, we need a state, so that we are able to better advise on how to go about it. And the person being attacked, you might not even need to do anything. We just need to reach the person and let the person understand that, you see, you have not done anything wrong. You are actually the right person. And if it happens again, you do what you need to do. So basically working on the person so that the person doesn't begin to feel, out of place. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take these 2 questions together. Someone says, how do I counsel a secondary school girl, 16 years, who is deep into a relationship with a guy? That means this girl is infatuated with a guy. And this other person says, if an 8-year-old says he has a crush, how do you handle it? The same child also says some people in his class are boyfriends and girlfriends. Please advise.
Okay, so for that other girl, you need to show a lot of love. Trust me, the girl needs to win your trust before you can influence. Whatever, oftentimes what we do is we attack. Don't do this, don't do this. Don't you know if you do this, your life is going to spoil. That child is not going to listen. You know why? because there are role models who are musicians, right? They are musicians, they are role models, are doing all these things, and nobody's talking about it. They're even clapping for them, right? And so you need to establish rapport, build rapport, let the teenager, trust you, right? Once they trust you, they know that you genuinely love them, they'll begin to listen to you. Now, for the child who is talking about infatuation, crush is treated in our curriculum between ages 6 to 8, right? Crush simply means I like this person, nothing serious about it. If you subject it to time, right? So usually what I do with 8-year-olds is to say, okay, have you been to a party where you saw someone that you liked, but you couldn't talk to the person, and the person just left? Say, yeah. I remember I tried to talk to you, I couldn't talk, because, okay, so what did you do? Did you die? He said, no. Did you miss the person? He said, no. So that's how crush works, right? If you subject it to time. So right now, what do you think our priority should be? What are you trying to achieve, right? If you add this to it, what is the implication? Do you think you're ready for this? And it's simple conversation. I think that's what you need to do. For them to understand that it's not out of place to feel what they feel. They have emotions. They're human beings. However, it might not be the right time for that, right? And that everyone is doing. So we have a lesson called Power of One in that particular age that you just mentioned. And it's a song that everyone is doing it, doesn't make it right. You alone are doing it, doesn't make it wrong. I will stand out, I will stand out, I will stand out because I'm making, so the entire sexual education program has a lot of songs and games that you can play. And if that child is 8, we have a program called Ready for Life, actually, that you can enroll them for. Ready for Life is a 3-semester program in a year. We do it in diaspora and then we do it in Africa. They're on holiday right now. The next semester starts in September, right? And so you can register them for it because at that, you don't even need to do the teaching. They have instructors and mentors there who teach them all these things and they support you around the year. So you might want to sign them up for Ready for Life. But Ready for Life starts from ages 8 to age 18, right? So if your child is less than that, please don't bother.
Okay, someone is saying that, does Mr. Praise have a way of replicating himself or building army of crusader of such cause as he is pushing? I think he should raise the men on the other hand along as he is raising army of godly parents.
Yeah. I mean, I do that. Trust me, is because I just love to come and take the session. Ideally, I won't even show up. I have, over the years, one of the first things I did is to teach people everything I know. Right. So if I was not here, Tolani would have taken the, there are people on this call who will take this session people have trained over the years. We have, if we don't have at all, we have over 1,000 strong army standard professionals who can stand their own anywhere in the world, who can teach what I'm teaching. So it's not just about me at all. In fact, these days, I love to sit down and watch them do it. They don't need me.
Okay. Someone says, how can I help a teenager who has been sexually abused and I can see more signs of the after effects of the abuse?
Please take the child for counseling. It may not be something you can do yourself. It's a bit technical for people who have been abused, because what abuse does is abuse steals your identity and makes you begin to see yourself as a thing that must be used instead of a being that must be respected, right? So what I'm going to advise is you need to engage someone. There are agencies that can, we have an NGO that can take care of that, provide support, but there are several other NGOs we can refer you to because sometimes the effect of abuse lasts a lifetime, right? And other times there can be intervention that can resolve it. So we need to figure out what exactly is going on and find a way to solve that problem. But it's good that you observe, it's good that you show a lot of love, or what you can also do is you get trained so that you can work with the child directly, because sometimes it's better to work with someone who's already working with the child than to get another person for the child to be repeating their stories and things like that.
Okay. Someone is saying, how do I tell my children that masturbation is bad, even though they don't understand masturbation? They're teenagers.
Well, if they don't understand masturbation, why do you want to broach the topic, right? But if they are teenagers, for example, in our Ready for Life program, there's a class on masturbation and pornography, right? I think it's Tolani that even teaches that class, right? And where they discuss all these things and, the dangers and all. Because again, if they go online and ask ChatGPT to tell them there's nothing wrong with masturbation as a way to explore and discover your body, or if they go online will tell them, in fact, there's an online school that says that you need to, if you don't if you don't ejaculate, you need to ejaculate 21 ejaculation in a month.
21 times.
For you, I mean, all those kind of madness is just there, right? But remember that beyond what we need to teach, the concept of the identity for them to understand that you are an African, you are different, right? So somebody else from another part, Mexico, can believe what they want to believe. They are not wrong, it's their way. But as an African, this is what we believe. This, and maybe if you're Christian or Muslim, this is what we believe as values. This is what we carry as values. And this is what it has produced for us over time. So it's more of identity, mastery, than even any other thing you want to teach. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take this last question because of our time, because Mr. Praise needs to be in another session almost immediately. So what we will do is we will plan another question and answer time with Mr. Praise, where you can ask all your questions based on this class, because our time is fast spent tonight. But I'm going to ask these two questions. I'm going to ask them together. Someone says, my 6+ daughter was violated in school by a 10-year-old boy. What do I do? Right? And another question says, if a 10-year-old boy says he doesn't like girls, so he doesn't think he will marry in future, how do I handle it?
Well, if your daughter is violated, that's negligence on the part of the school. You need to take up the school. The school needs to invite the parents of the boy involved. They need to insist on going to therapy, and they need to pay for your child's therapy. That's sacrosanct, because it's negligence for a child. A child is in the parents, the school is supposed to be in custody of the child. And so if their system is not strong enough to allow a child to be in harm's way, then the school needs to be held liable, right? And so for the other child who is saying that, he doesn't like girls, you want to find out, where is that coming from? Is it possible that daddy and mommy are beating themselves, right? Or is it possible that there is a story behind that? You want to find that out. So don't take what the child is saying at the surface. Then it can be a movie, it can be a story, it can be some stories, it can be in a group where they are talking about girl, it can be the way it's been handled by a girl, it can even be that the child is saying to you that there's a woman that is molesting me. So there are so many things that child is saying that you are not aware of. So we need to figure out what exactly the child, because nobody just wakes up and say, I don't like girls. It's coming from a place. We need to figure out that place. Someone is saying that you meet teenagers who are doing prostitution. Now, prostitution intervention, I worked with prostitutes for 7 years of my life in Ajegunle. I took a lot of them, close to 300 prostitutes that I work with. It took me time to discover that prostitute is not really a poverty problem. Prostitution is an identity problem. For you to sleep with 11 men every day, which those girls used to do, right? For them to have slept with 11 men every day means that something has gone on with their identity. And in my research, I have never met one prostitute who was not a victim of child sexual abuse. Their identity was already lost through child sexual molestation which prepared them to get into that kind of life. Now, so don't judge anybody in that space. See them as your sisters. It took me a long time, like 1.5 years for some of them to take them out, right? Because you can't take them out of prostitution without finding out something for them to be doing. But what you need to restore is their identity. And there's an intervention for that, which I can share here. Unfortunately, there's so many questions. So what I'm going to promise you guys, if we can't take your question, we will organize a strictly Q&A. Maybe our next meeting will be Q&A. But trust me, for those of you who have questions and you are joining our VIP group, trust me, all your questions are going to be answered. There are several coaches there who are going to be working with you. Thank you very much, guys. I have a meeting starting in 3 minutes that I need to step into, but I hope that you guys realize that we have to do this together as Africans, and we have to safeguard the future of Africa and raise a new generation. So I look forward to seeing you October 1st when we do that lunch, and trust me, get ready to work. It's not going to be easy. There's a whole lot that we're going to pour into you. We're going to give you access to what we would sell independently, which is worth more than what you have actually paid. But at the end of the day, if we can raise a new generation of African ancestors, then let's do it. If government can't do it for us, we can do it for ourselves. So for those asking for my email address, Tolani, you can share my email address with them. Thank you, everyone. God bless you. Tolani, I hand over to you.
All right. Thank you for everyone who has joined us tonight. And you can see what Mr. Principal has talked about tonight. And you see that it's not just what a 2-hour class would fix. It's not what a 2-hour session would fix. It has to be something that is continuous, because the people who are contending with, who are pushing out content that your children are consuming, they are doing it per second billing. So we cannot slack as parents. We cannot relax. So it is important that you join this VIP community so that you are able to access all the promises that PF has promised us tonight. You're going to have 1 year access. Isn't that amazing? Admin, please drop the link. Let people sign up. It's not something that you are waiting for. Oh, let me wait for the next time Mr. Praise will do a free webinar. No, this parenting journey and all of these things that you have talked about, just one webinar every quarter will not solve the problem. Go into the chat room. The links are there. If you're in Africa, click on the link. iampraised4woware.com/VIP parents. Just click on it. And if you're in diaspora, meaning that if you're outside of Africa, you can also click on the link iampraised4woware.com/VIP parents diaspora. It is important. And someone is saying, oh, I want to do a transfer. Admin, please, can you drop a link for them, or can you drop the account details for them so that they can join? All you need to join is 10,000 naira. 10,000 naira to fix your slot. It's going for 200,000 for a whole year. A whole year. You're going to be in class with us for 4 weeks talking about parenting. You also have access to sexuality education. We're meeting with you every month, based on the age group of your children. So people who have children between, let's say, ages 2 to 4, you meet every month. We'll teach you what you're going to teach your child for the month. Then you go and execute it and come back to tell us, right? For ages 5 to like 8 or 7, we would also put you together in a group and we will teach you what you're going to teach your children for the month. So it is important that you sign up to be a part of this package. It's 200,000 naira for a whole year, and we would allow for you to split your payment into 4 places. So you can decide to pay every quarter for 50,000 naira in 4 places. But for you to be, to partake of this amazing offer, it is important that you join us using any of the link or using any of the account details that has been dropped. It's just 10,000 naira. Yes, so people ask me for Praise for Woware's email address. It is praiseforwower@gmail.com. Yes, I have just dropped it. And if you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us. I'm dropping the number right now. 08125120410. Yes, that is the email address of Mr. Praise Owoware. It just his full name, praiseowoware@gmail.com. And to reach out to us, +234 081 25 120 410. And for people who are asking, do you have materials for my teenagers that I can use to teach them sexuality education? Oh, yes. If you go to our website, www.iampraised4woware.com, we have amazing products for you. But I would rather want you to join this community that you're just paying 10,000 naira to join, because all of this would be added to all the things you're going to be getting. Now, don't get it wrong. For the whole year, the subscription is 200,000. But for you to enjoy that discount, because ideally it would go for about 2 million naira, but considering what the economy is right now, and we love you parents so much, and we want to support you on this journey, we are only giving you for a 10% of that. Yes, and that's why you're only paying 200,000 naira. But for you to enjoy that, if you're saying, oh, I don't have 200,000 right now, knowing that this program is going to be for a whole year, all you need to do is to, book your slots for just 10,000 naira. If you're within Africa, the link has been dropped and the account details are also being dropped. Please, for people on YouTube, please, admin, also consider them and drop the links for them. I don't want anyone to miss out of this amazing opportunity. Yes, you can go to our Instagram page, Praise for Woware INT. Follow us for further details. Yes, you can, chat us up on WhatsApp and say you want to be a part of the general community. Now, note that the general community will not be benefiting from this. It would only be for the VIP community. And that's why there is a fee. Is there a deadline for booking the slots for 10,000 naira? Yes, you have between now and another 48 hours. Admin, am I right? You have between now and another 48 hours to book that slot. Between now and 48 hours, if you have not been able to pay that 10,000 naira to book your slot, To book your slot after 48 hours will now be 50,000 naira. To book your slot after 48 hours will be 50,000 naira. And the next parenting class is coming up in August. So if you sign up right now, you're able to join the next parenting class. But note that before you're able to join the parenting class, at least you would have paid the first installment for this 1 year program. So it is important. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us. 081 25 120 410. You can also send Mr. Praise for Wowe email at praiseforwowe@gmail.com. You can also send me an email, tolani@iampraiseforwowe.com. tolani@iampraiseforwowe.com. The account details are being dropped in the group right now. Please, if you're joining from YouTube, admin, please don't forget my YouTube people. They are precious to me. They are so precious to me. So please go into the chat room and see all the links that you need. If you have signed up, please go into the chat room and say done, done, done. But don't forget that if you are doing a transfer, it is important that you send us proof of payment. Let us know that it was you that made the transfer. And the number you're going to be sending the proof of payment to is included. Oh, thank you, iPhone. Done. Essay. Done. Beautiful. These are people, like someone reached out to me today and said, oh, Tolani, I'm part of your parenting community, and this and this and this is the issue that I have with my child. And we have scheduled a meeting, a session for the child tomorrow. That is what we do with our community. If you have signed up for this, go into the chat room and tell us done, 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 done. Let me know the people that were working with you. Will know that the battle line has been drawn and we can no longer be sleeping. It is high time that we take responsibility for our children. We need to mean business. The same way the people who are contending with for our children, they are very intentional. We also need to be very, very intentional. So for all the people who are asking questions, at what age do I teach my child? What do I teach my child about sexuality? This community is for you. This VIP community is for you, because we would group you with other parents. We would meet with you every month, teaching you what to teach your children, teaching you what to teach with your children, and it will be an amazing one. A lot of time, people don't know how to teach their children. So they will say, oh, I taught my child pornography and then my child, started watching. That's because you didn't do the right thing. You didn't teach the child properly. So when I hear parents say, oh, I have an amazing relationship with my daughter or with my son, and the children are saying, oh, no, I don't think so. You also want to be sure that you're properly bonding with your child, and you're not just assuming that you guys are bonding when you're not. Thank you so much for everyone who has joined us tonight. I have learned so much. I am super excited. Oh, and Yola Oke says, I am attending this Family Systems Engineering Certification course. Do I still have to join this? Yes, it's totally different. Joining the Family System Engineering Certification course is for you to be certified to work with families, right? But for this particular one, it's you and your parenting journey. It's you and your parenting journey. We're teaching you for 4 weeks how to be a better parent. You need to understand the new rules of parenting a 21st century child. And of course, there are other systems that you need to put in place in your marriage, right? Sometimes the behaviors we see with children are as a result of the things happening in the marriage. So we're not just considering your parenting alone, or we're not considering just the sexuality part of your children, but we're also considering how you and your spouse can also have a better relationship, because we understand that if your marriage works better, then it's easier for you and your spouse to partner together and be able to raise an awesome child. Please, we would keep in touch with us. Follow us on our social media platform, Praise for Wowe INT. Praise for Wowe INT. And you can also follow Mr. Praise for Wowe on Instagram. I am Praise for Wowe. That is Family Life Strategies. Praise for Wowe. You could check him out on Instagram. You can send us a mail, info@iampraiseforwowe.com. You can also send me a mail, tolani@iampraiseforwowe.com. You can send us a message on WhatsApp. We will respond to you on 081 25 120 410. Send us a direct message and we would respond to all your questions. Of course, join our community. Open the emails that we send to you so that the next time we're going to have something like this, it would be to inform you of the date that Mr. Praise will be on the call to answer all your questions. I have had an amazing day tonight. I've learned so much and I'm excited about my learnings and I'm excited about the children who will benefit from this learning. They will be excited that you were in this class today because you're a better parent for attending this. Don't just learn for learning's sake. Please practicalize all the things that you have learned. And do have a lovely evening if you're in Africa. Do have a lovely afternoon. To have an amazing day. Someone says, how do I get your email? Tolani@iampraiseforwoware.com. That's it. Tolani@iampraiseforwoware.com. I'm going to drop that in the chat room. Thank you, everyone who joined tonight. I would see you some other time. But remember to sign up. Remember to follow us on our social media platform. Remember to send us a message, DM us, send us a mail, drop a WhatsApp message for us, send us a text, and we would respond to you. Tolani@iampraiseforwoware.com. Thank you so much, everyone who's joined us tonight. Bye. I think we should groove a bit. Admin, do you have music for us? Is 08125 No, Mrs. Adekpoju, 12410, not 420. Let me write that out again. So I just want to be sure that nobody misses anything. 120, not 420. Good.
I'm looking for how to scale this up to parents that I know. My husband and I want to become better parents on how we raise him, on how we help him develop, to leverage on his strengths and how to also work on his weaknesses. It's a wonderful experience. I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. Every parent needs to go through this. What are you raising your child to think like? What are you even preparing your child for? What is the best soil for your child's seed? If you plant the right seed on the wrong soil, stunted growth will happen. What's the vision of your family? Now, if you have your husband here and I ask the two of you to write your family vision down, and the two of you don't write the same thing word for word, it means you don't have a family vision. Are you seeing your child or you are seeing the royals? That's the most important lesson you need to learn in this class. What you can see determines what you do. When you understand this, anyone coming into your space in form of domestic servants or teachers or whatever, you take them through an orientation program. Domestication, for example, is I have no respect for your person. I say I want to correct you, then I slap you. I'm domesticating you because I'm treating you exactly the way animals are trained. I'll tell you the difference. Domestication and discipline, they look alike. Discipline is grooming. The word discipline is the word discipleship. And discipline does not start with beating. It starts with modeling. A disciplined child is actually fearless. A domesticated child is fearful.
Today has been by far on learning a lot of things and learning new things about parenting.
Here are 3 questions that I want us to go through. 1, who taught you about parenting? 2, in whose culture were you taught? And 3, what has been the report card of the culture that taught you?
Why I came here is to be able to amend my parenting skills.
There are people who want to raise children to become owners of industry. Second category, they want to raise their children to become captains of industry. Third category, they want to raise children who will also or function within industry.